Good afternoon. It's about 2:45 here in central Indiana. I think it's 45 degrees out. It's 75 out here on my patio where the sun's hitting it. I'm smoking my old General. Got some dehydrated grape in it. Guys, I think we're trying to smoke our tobacco too wet. Need to go back to Mutton Chop VR's, take a look at what he says about smoking too wet of tobacco. Check out the Pipe Nook and go back, I think, a couple years ago where he starts talking about wet tobacco and how he dries his out. And while you're searching on YouTube, you'll find several other VRs on there about people smoking wet tobacco. I bought a can of grape, Captain Black grape. Tasted it, smoked it, talked about it way too much. The only reason why I bought that big can, I think it's 12 or 14 inches, whatever the can is because at the time when I was going to buy it and test it out and try it, that was all that was available. So I went and bought it. I smoked and smoked and smoked that. Opened that can up and it's like that can was growing. I likened it to some kind of miracle tobacco. So then one time I opened it up and it felt like it was kind of dried out. So I smelled it, could hardly smell the grape. I thought, man, I need to hydrate this tobacco. So I went and got me a little cap of water, pure water, and put in there, put the cap back on it. Didn't go out there to my garage a couple days. Of course, my tobacco's out in my garage, and in the wintertime around here, there's plenty of humidity around. So you think tobacco would pick up humidity on its own. But I went out there after a couple of days and took that lid off of that grape, and that tobacco about exploded out of there. I took that little bitty thing of water out of there and shoved that tobacco around a little bit, just moved the can around a little bit, and it swelled up. Had a hard time putting the lid on that tobacco. So that tobacco swells quite a lot. The more moist it is, the more it swells. Also, the heavier it is. So I went out a day and a half ago, got a lid from a box, put a paper towel in it, followed some instructions, kind of like Mutton Chop alluded to. Let that grape dry out for a day and a half or longer, almost 2 days. When it dries out and you can pick it up, it isn't crunchy, but it's almost crunchy. I'm an old farmer. When we would cut hay, you know, you cut hay, it lays in the field, and the sun starts drying it out. You'll cut it and let it lay in the field a day. Then you go back in with a rake and you turn it over. Both sides have dried. Then you get off your tractor and you go down and you grab a couple of those pieces of that hay, which is cut grass, and you put it in your hand and you wad it up. Wad that up, tighten your hand. Then you open your hand. If it stays and doesn't move, it's too wet and you've crunched it. If it starts shriveling out real fast, it's too wet. If it stays, it's too dry. If it starts shriveling out, it's too wet. What you want is you want to be able to put that in there, and you want to hold it tight and let it loose and have it just kind of just swell up a little bit. Not completely swell up, but not be crunchy and not dry, not move at all. That's when you know your hay's ready to be baled. Why is that important? If you put that hay in that barn too wet, it's going to spoil, it's going to sour, it's going to rot, it's going to get mold on it. If you let it lay out in that field too long, the grass loses a lot of its energy, a lot of its taste. The animals, cows, horses, whoever you're going to feed it to, is not going to like it as much as well. And you've lost a lot of the purpose as far as feed goes. They're not going to get as much out of it. So it's got to be right at the right humidity. And I'm thinking this tobacco is almost the same. I think if we had a tobacco leaf and we crunched it up and it was crunchy and never moved, it crunched, too dry. If we rolled it up and let it loose, and it'd all come out, too wet. So this is too long. Got off on a tangent. I do put this in here. I do not have to relight. This is my second bowl of this dehydrated grape in my General. Put it in, light it. Sometimes you don't even need a second light. And it goes. It'll go all the way down to the bottom. No relight necessary. I see some guys making a 5-minute VR and they relight their pipe 10 times in that 5-minute VR. Something's wrong. Yesterday we had a beautiful day here, 75s, and it was a memory. Tomorrow they say it's going to get colder, and that's just a promise. But right now out here it's perfect, so I'm enjoying today.